as winter striper season is here, I've been tying a bunch of Clousers. And one thing that I do on a lot of my winter striper flies is I add rattles. So what I'm going to kind of show you is how to tie a Rattle Clouser, kind of basically how I tie in my rattles. And so really I pretty much use the same hook on all my striper flies. This is a Gamakatsu heavy wire jig hook, 60, I think it's 60 degree flat eye. There's a lot of good ones out there. This is kind of my go-to. A little harder to find than the light wire ones, but the heavy wire is what I prefer. So you got to kind of search them out. First thing I do, start the thread wrap, and I'm gonna attach my eyes. And again, with Clousers, a lot of times proportion is everything, and these are just lead barbell eyes. Attach them right there, give myself a little bit of room in the head. And I've experimented a lot with a lot of different ways to do this, but I've kind of settled on this. Next thing I'm going to do, add a little bit of a flash in, and this is just Flashaboo. I fold it over, make it a little long. These are going to be winter flies, so you want that flash tail to be a little long, as these are going to be a little bit bigger flies. First thing I do, add some pink in, because I'm going to model this after a smolt that will be out migrating the river. And I completely eyeball this stuff. Okay, this is not, there's no exact science to any of this, outside of just eyeballing it. Most of the fish or bait that we're trying to imitate are anywhere from 6 to 7 inches long. So you figure with everything in there, you're going to want that. And I actually always keep a ruler here as I kind of start to look at this. If you take the flash out, you're about 7 inches. That's about what we want. Next I'm going to take some bucktail white flash and slinky, probably one of my most used patterns or materials. Take it, I'm going to set this out. Out like that. Take it, tack it down to the hook shank. Take this excess, fold it back over, tack it down. And that's technically the tail, I guess you would say. The next thing I'm going to do is add the rattle. I buy most of my rattles from online, various sorts. Bunch of good online places, any of the online bass shops or stuff like that. But they're basically bass rattles. These aren't your fly shop issue. I like plastic because they don't break. I put my rattles on the bottom of the hook shank. There's a lot of guys that are tying striper flies that are actually putting the rattle on the inside. The rattle is always an issue in that the rattle is hollow, so it's full of air, and so the fly has a tendency to flip when it has a rattle on it. But I tend to find that that is usually compensated by the lead eyes. But a couple things you can do. One thing you can do to overcome that is take a little strip too. It adds some weight to the fly, but it can kind of help it ride. Let's take some of this, basically Zonker tape, basically lead, and cut a piece off and stick it on top. Trim it. Realistically, it can add all this to it. It's going to kind of help give that rattle some weight to kind of counteract that hollow floating that can take place. Again, wrap some thread around it. Now with that, I'm going to flip it, and I always try to make sure, kind of look at it from the top and make sure everything's as centered as it possibly can. And I'm going to get in there and kind of fill the side up with clear thin. Hit it with this new rechargeable light. Flip it. Get the other side. Really kind of coat it up. I'm pretty liberal with this. And I do like the thin for this, as it kind of soaks in there and gets into all the kind of nicks and crannies. Get the top a little bit. Alright, and that's how I add in a rattle. I'll kind of show you how I finish the fly. And again, you can, I mean, let's be real, you can tie this pattern in very, very many different color schemes. For the delta, the rivers, whatever. So I take another piece of this bucktail, set it right there, and the notch in the rattle is where I tie it, right like that. Then I pull it forward, tie around the nose, and then tack it down there. Then take that, do the same exact thing. And these are not trim flies, so to say. So I kind of eyeball it. And got a little bit left, add a little bit more to it. Thread wraps. Point, flip it over, and you can, mix colors in here as you see fit. As I said, I'm going to tie this as a smolt pattern, so kind of show you the color scheme that I use for that. This is a wild, it's called a wild olive, and again I'm going to kind of measure it to that length, tie it in right there on the head. Set that there. Take some of the couple different colors of lucent wrap, and again, if you've watched any of my other videos, I've been using a lot of this stuff. I'm going to take some of the lucent wrap red and black, and this is in the 7.5 inch. And what I do, it's kind of counterintuitive probably. So I take a strip of this, which is going to be the red, and I'm trying to get that kind of rainbowy look, that baby rainbow, or steelhead smolt, or salmon smolt, whatever you're imitating. again, I talked about in my last video too about how important I'm starting to see lateral lines. Even just tying those little bait fish in my other video, like with these, the bigger it is, I think the more important that kind of breakup of color down the side becomes. So I put that red in there. Then I take some of the tan bar. This is the wide bar 3.5 inch. It's longer, a little different, or a little more. If you look, it's a little longer. Bars are a little farther apart. I'm going to put it right over the red. And it's kind of got this almost pink hue to it when you put them over it. And it's going to give that fly that kind of rainbowy-ish, smoltish par mark down the side in a much easier way and much more durable way than you could if you were using a marker or something like that. That is also very popular when doing this pattern, or something like this. And again, with this, one big thing that with any of my striper flies, or really, I mean, you can fish this for big bass in any big reservoir or something of that nature, is durability. Okay, I want this fly to last. It's obviously going to take a while. It's going to take some material. Okay, I'm going to cut another strand of this olive off. Set it right on top. And I'm kind of frugal about saving some of this stuff, because over here I can grab some of the peacock we'll use for the top. Probably one of the colors I use the most as a top is this kind of peacock, I think is what it's called, Flash and Slinky. Take a strand of that. And again, I'm doing this all about the same length so that when I'm done, I can trim this to a profile. And I'll show you that here when we're all done. So at that point, pretty much done with adding material. Kind of show you how I finish this. Wrap it up, tie it off. You can kind of see, it's nice, the top. I'll take the top here and hold it. The white's somewhat already tapered. That. Pull it in. Got that nice kind of profile. Now to finish the head, I'll show you what I'm going to do. And again, at this point, you know, if you want to hit it with some Zap-A-Gap or clear, or what do you, UV clear and call it good, you're probably fine. Show you a little thing I do just to, I don't know, spice it up, I guess, make it look good, is I mix this color. They don't have it. The powders with the thick UV coat. It's an olive I make up. It's a mixture of about 5 or 6 of the different, not 5 or 6, I should say, more like 3 or 4 of the different powders. It's a proprietary blend. What I do is I put it over there then I actually even move it up a little bit onto the head. And I'm not super picky about how it looks, but one thing that I do is it gives it a little bit of an olive top and a white underbelly, which, you know, if you're looking at a fish, is actually how they look. Hit it, and you got to hit this stuff. I let this stuff cure for some reason, and I don't know, I might have to ask one of the loon gurus, but when you add the powder to it, the finish does not cure as quick, and you can get hard on the top, but it's soft inside. And I'll even sometimes push on it to get a little bit of the goo out, harden it up. At that point, I'll coat it again with thin. Grab the thick. I'm not ready for the thick yet. Let it cure. And then on the bottom, I'll flip this over. And you can hit it with the thin again, or if you want, you can go through the thick. I'll get some of the thick running and kind of build up that bottom. And I pull it all the way over, up and over, secure all those kind of thread wraps. Build a nice thick head with the goop, UV clear thick. Let that cook, bake. Now you could do the whole head in olive if you wanted to. I mean, nothing that says you can't. Just kind of gives it a little dark on top if you look, then white underneath, a little spotchy. Let it cure, and that's it. That is my Rattle Clouser in a smolt or a rainbow color. You can even hear it. All right, thanks for tuning in.